question usually was, how do we yield tacit knowledge of an organization, first of all, and then how do we actually inject that into an agentic system? We talked about harness tools and so on. And of course, the missing element so far was the skills. It usually was in Markdown. It was like, if you just reason through the fact that we had to actually prepare Markdown files to then give it to an agent, and this is like the actual de facto avenue that we're injecting this knowledge, was kind of a funny anecdote if you ask me 2-3 years back. But that's basically what is happening now, right? So we have Markdown files on generating, for example, due diligence, on doing an infrastructure project, on doing some specialized model for chemistry or for finance, for example. At least if you're building on large language model. What you're explaining is maybe one step after this, probably still somewhat generic to the organization if the org doesn't manage the lookup tables. But probably it is one next logical step, maybe into a world where there is more specialized large language models available as opposed to general purpose one. I'm still sometimes a little bit skeptical on the super specialized models because it kind of is, it's a bit like I would say fiddling out in terms of capability maybe, but certainly I'm very, very open to be testing multiple large language models for our domain, maybe as I would say maybe as part of the agentic systems that are in place already. So whoever is then doing the agentic work on due diligence or on financial modeling or on risk modeling, you might actually want to rely on a Claude model that's purposely built with lookup tables for finance or for risk management or for banking. And for the general purpose orchestration, tool calling, web research, you might actually look for a different model. So that actually in sum really sums up again the counter argument at the beginning you mentioned, multi-agent.
And yes. Have one, if you're not interested in hyper-specialized models, and I understand that it comes with a catch, right? A hyper-specialized model in finance might not have something in healthcare, and then you're doing financial analysis of a healthcare company, you kind of lose on some information. However, one other advantage that this research brings is that these models saved on compute, which means for the first time in a few months, and we've talked about it, every single new model was coming out better and smarter, but also significantly more expensive. And that was being the trend because the models was growing bigger and bigger with more information and more weights and harder to run for compute. This means that the first time in a few months, I can actually have an architecture that I can deploy on a model, an existing architecture, and I can make the model run equally as smart or even smarter for a little less compute, which makes it a little cheaper to run, which means maybe not the exact next wave that'll come out in the next few weeks, but maybe in the next month or two, we'll see a model that is actually cheaper for the first time. Or not, maybe OpenAI will make the margins better for them. They do need the money, but they can run the models in a cheaper way, which is better for everyone, energy-wise, cost-wise, and hopefully for the builders, they'll spend less on inference and more on marketing or any other topic that they want to.
Or, I mean, the other way is like, given the same money spent today, if it's a more efficient model, they can yield a higher intelligent output version.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit the other way to look at it. Then the third way is like, I think the latest benchmarks from NVIDIA and the Vera Rubin system are also showcasing in association with the low latency components they now received from Grok, plus this multi-chip design or in an entire rack, that again, probably the inference capabilities are going to 10x potentially, plus we have a software or algorithmic improvement by, for example, DeepSeek. So 10x cheaper, 10x faster on the chip, so it's like 100x better overall system. Of course, more or less an estimate here. But that's just to put it into perspective, right? So today we're thinking Claude Opus 4.6 is fairly intelligent for most tasks. If it's harnessed well, has great tools around, great connectors and great skills, the lookup capabilities in the table you mentioned, and add better compute, especially on inference. What is 100 times better an Opus 4.6? It's not comprehensible for a human, of course, probably is not as linearly improved than as just 100x from today's baseline. But even if it's 4 or 5x, what does that actually even mean for intelligence? I think that's really, really an interesting future. Just to round up the episode before we shoot, and we need to go back to engineering topics. I quickly wanted to bring across maybe the point. I've tested this fairly intensively the last few days in regard to Claude Dispatch, Claude Cowork, and this kind of computer use from the phone. For you guys in the audience who haven't maybe tried it, you can technically steer your entire laptop or your entire agent on the laptop from Claude via your phone. So that is this feature that Anthropic launched called Dispatch. The way I use it, so basically I have a workflow on on Claude Cowork, for example, or in Claude Code, but let's leave that for separate conversation. So focused on Claude Cowork, that is basically the outbound engine on qualified lead generation. So what that means, once you have an agentic AI product, you probably want to reach out to your enterprises, to your target clients. You have some sort of ICP, ideal customer profile, and all this aggregation work you can have always been able to do on Claude Cowork. You need integrations into, for example, Clay as a data aggregator. So in other words, where you get the company information from, and into Apollo, where it actually yields the output sequence. For this, as it was actually happening for the last few weeks, you needed Claude Cowork installed on your laptop. This saved me probably 60 or so hours per month. It is an insane improvement on productivity because you can simply chat with Cowork and it flies off and does the agentic tasks. I need to do it on Clay, I need to do on Apollo, then it generates all the sequences and the outreach email. Now on Dispatch, I can do the same, but from the phone. So in my case, I might work on the laptop doing this work and then just switch off, go to the gym or go to a client meeting on the train or something similar. And I can just continue working like I would actually be at home. And it's kind of a scary moment. I share it with a dear friend of mine who is not too much into AI. And he was also a little bit, what is actually happening? So you can really see, you can steer your laptop, for example, in this sales outreach or SDR pipeline from your phone entirely. And you can spawn agents on your laptop, in your browser. You can even switch between different windows and stuff like this, all from the phone or via Claude Dispatch. Is it a game changer? Not necessarily, but I'm even now more FOMOing that I should use Claude even more on the phone, on the laptop. And today I don't have it as a background, but usually I'm even in the background of Claude Code. So that's the wrap up.
Anthropic thanks you for your usage and for your monthly bill of Claude
Exactly.
credits.
Worth $200, and it literally saves me. I mean, this is like $200, but if you could translate it into the hourly saved, this is definitely worth more than $200. It's probably north of 4 figures if you look it into an hourly rate. But yeah, that was it for you. Yeah, that was it for the episode, everybody. Episode 46, brief drill down into, again, agentic harnesses, into some newest and latest research of DeepSeek, something we maybe actually are seeing more and more in the latest models, and just our best view on Dispatch and on Cowork. Anything else to add, Joao, for today's episode?
No. So far, I mean, I'm still looking at new research. We'll probably bring it you in the next episode. We still have some news from NVIDIA that they're also using AI, but they're not being as loved by the customers because people are getting used to what AI looks like, and when they see AI slop, they recognize it as AI slop. But we'll leave it for the next episode. We don't want to keep you too long, so see you next week.
Alrighty, see you in the next week, and have a good week. Take care. Bye, everybody.